So now I call upon one of the leading gastroenterologists of Jalandhar, Dr. Amit Singhal, who is one of the directors of the top tier institution of Punjab, the Premier Gastro Institute (PGI). A hospital, Dr. Shingara Singh Hospital, is lucky to be associated with him for the past 5 years. He's got an excellent academic record, being a topper in gold medalist in MD Medicine and DM Gastroenterology. He has done his senior residency as well as DM Gastroenterology from AIIMS, Delhi, and has been awarded Best Gastroenterology Student Award in AIIMS in 2008. He's got various paper presentations and publications to his credit and is a skilled endoscopist trained in narrowband imaging, double balloon enteroscopy, confocal endoscopy, and endoscopic ultrasound. So he's going to burst the myths in gastroenterology medicine. Over to Dr. Amit Singhal.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Gurpreet, for the very nice and kind words. I thank PIMACon organizers, Dr. Daya and the team, for organizing such an august conference amid the corona. This is the first, I think, physical meeting we are attending after such a long time. So without taking much long time, I have kept my topic to be very simple and useful probably for everybody. Common myths related to gastroenterology patients, which we follow. I'm not talking about what I'm doing or what I'm not doing. The first common myth which is there among the physicians or among the various doctors, that patients who have jaundice, they should be given low calorie, low protein diet. So I would request that this is probably wrong. Patient having jaundice due to any cause should be given high calorie, high protein diet. Any cause, jaundice due to any cause. Take my word, please. High carbohydrates, high fruits, milk, yogurt, cheese, meat, poultry, everything is allowed in any cause. Only thing you have little fat content, which could be little less. Because there is some indigestion in the patient and there might be some nausea with which fat digestion could be disturbed. Sugarcane juice, very famously advised. Should be given? I have put in question mark. Why? It is again, why it was preferred? Because it's a high carbohydrate. But problem is of hygiene. Wherever we get a sugarcane juice, the hygiene is a problem. You can't get the sugarcane juice which is homemade, and so I don't recommend my patients to get a sugarcane juice from a ready wala, which are already suffering from infections. So take home message, jaundice patients don't need a low calorie diet, any cause. Another myth about diet, patients who are in hepatic coma, they should be given low protein diet. Again, patients of cirrhosis are already sarcopenic, deficient on proteins and calories. There is no advantage on restricting proteins. They should be given normal or high protein diet ranging from 1 to 1.5 grams per kg per day. So if it is a 60 kg man, 80 kg man, he needs more than 100 grams of protein per day, which is more than an average protein which you and me ingest every day. Only difference is vegetable protein is better than animal protein. So again, the fact is you don't restrict proteins in a cirrhotic patient, even in hepatic coma. Another important myth, majority of our surgical and physicians, they get the patients of acute pancreatitis, and the first thing done is put in a Ryle's tube and keep the patient nil orally. Is it really required? No. No logic of giving pancreas rest, which was an initial teaching, standard teaching. You don't give the pancreas problems. No role of routine NG tube placement. Only required if the patient is severely vomiting, severe gastric ileus. Then only you put in an NG tube. Don't put in NG tube otherwise. Try to start liquids as soon as possible. Increase to semi-solids and solids as soon as patient tolerates the liquids, goes to semi-solids and solids. Liquids can be started even if there are absent bowel sounds. So early institution of enteral diet is important in pancreatitis. Putting in a nasogastric tube for feeding the patient is important and not for doing a gastric lavage or keeping a rule. Another important thing, a myth is majority of patients with fresh bleeding PR are treated as hemorrhoids. They are usually treated as piles, but there are lot many other causes which are often missed. Patients come to us with recent history of surgery for piles and still bleeding is not stopping because they are either ulcerative colitis, there are cancers hidden inside in the rectum, there are rectal polyps, stercoral ulcers, SRUS, infective colitis, C. difficile colitis, angiodysplasia, huge list I can tell, which can lead to bleeding, fresh bleeding PR. Even patients bleeding from upper GI tract can have a fresh bleeding PR if it is a significantly bleeding from an ulcer or something. So other causes of bleeding must be evaluated in every patient. Just doing a per rectal examination or proctoscopy in a good way can save us from a lots of trouble, or you can order a sigmoidocolonoscopy if possible. Low platelets, very common thing. Every one of you in this hall or visiting us on online will be seeing these patients, having a patient's borderline low platelets. 1.5 lakh to cut platelet hai, be cautious. They are not harmless patients. Commonest cause routinely in our patients of having low platelets is cirrhosis, early cirrhosis, portal hypertension. Do rule out portal hypertension in all the patients who have a borderline low platelets or a low platelets less than 1.5 lakhs. Because this is the most sensitive and early marker of portal hypertension. Getting a liver function test, ultrasound, viral markers, and the recent investigation of FibroScan will help in distinguishing a patient from a delay. Patients having difficulty in swallowing, but endoscopy is normal, are usually considered as psychological, functional, but there are many disorders, esophageal motility disorders, which needs to be ruled out in such patients, achalasia cardia, diffuse esophageal spasm, nutcracker's esophagus, which have standard treatments, and patient gets rid of the disease and they can be diagnosed by manometry. So esophageal motility disorders must be ruled out in any patients of dysphagia where endoscopy is normal. Any lymph node anywhere, significant lymph node, presumptive ATT is given by majority of the physicians, because CT can just tell us there is a significant lymph nodes in the mediastinum or abdomen. But there are numerous other causes, my dear. We know sarcoidosis, very common, lymphoma, very common, malignancy, very common, reactive lymph nodes we very often see, where there is no other cause. Lymph node sampling is the answer, but the sampling is very difficult. That's why we don't get it done. We know that sampling is required from the mediastinum and retroperitoneum, and endoscopy, ultrasound, as we had a session in the morning, is a very useful technique and a very easy OPD method to take a sample from these lymph nodes and take care of, make a good diagnosis and a treatment. So lymph node sampling must be done for the diagnosis and treatment. The last myth I would discuss, dilated CBD with inconclusive MRCP. There is a CBD dilated, patient may have jaundice, may not have jaundice, but it doesn't need any evaluation because the MRI says there is nothing. This is a recent study by PGI. 40 patients, dilated CBD on MRI, found CBD stones in 40% of the patients, which were missed by MRI. Benign biliary strictures, malignant biliary strictures. And people having normal CBD, that means physiologically they have a dilated CBD in rest of them. So more than 50% actually had a significant cause which needed treatment where the MRI was inconclusive. So terminal CBD and ampullary region is poorly evaluated by MRCP, and there is a role of, again, endoscopy, ultrasound in defining these things. So there is a very few things I discussed which was of use of everybody. Thank you once again for giving us this platform to educate you. Thanks a lot.